back to the Resistance broadcast. My name is John Hoey. Thank you for joining the Resistance. We hope you enjoyed our spoiler review of Solo: A Star Wars Story. If you haven't listened to it yet, be sure to check it out, as we will be talking about the movie today and Thursday. It's great to be back to our regular schedule, though. We have a fun show today, which includes your Solo questions that we couldn't get to last time because we really just got way too in-depth with our spoiler review. Sorry about that, but we promised we'd get to them, and we'll get to them right now. Well, not right now, a little later. So let's dive in by first saying hi to James Baney and Lacey Gilleran.
What's up, guys? Man, I've just been fantastic with everybody sending me all the little things that maybe we didn't mention in the spoiler review. You know, all these little other Easter eggs or other things that maybe we hadn't understood. And I was just like, man, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it has been fantastic. So keep doing that, guys. If you see more stuff or more like interesting little arcs with these characters, storylines or something, send them my way, man. I want to read it and I want to write back.
I don't want any of it. Don't send it to me.
Yeah, that must be Lacey Gilleran, everybody.
I'm just kidding. But I do have some really good merch ideas on my Twitter account if anybody wants to check them out. And I've been staring at my dice for legit 2 weeks now. I just drive. I should probably not be driving because I just stare at them, and then I'll probably get into an accident.
You have been reposting a lot of dice. Hey, look where the dice was in this promo picture.
I'm obsessed. It's my new obsession.
Yeah, when I left the first time I saw Solo, I took the dice that they gave away at the fan event and I put them on my rearview mirror. And then I just drove home like a complete jerk. And I just felt like, I'm Han Solo driving home. Yeah, and I'm 35 years old, so go figure.
Meanwhile, I drive like a jerk whether there's dice or not, so...
Well, there that is. Okay. But yeah, check out Lacey had this little thread going on because one of the guys over at Lucasfilm, I don't know if it was Daniel Kennedy.
It was Daniel Kennedy, my boy Daniel. Team Kylo.
He was talking about merch ideas or something like that for Star Wars Celebration. Then Lacey took 50 Ritalin and then went off and posted 5 billion different cool ideas for Star Wars merch ideas, including, what was it? The one Matt Martin said he liked.
Cool.
What was that one, Lacey?
So first of all, I said they were kind of cool, but terrible. So just to preface that, kind of cool, but terrible. And they were ideas that I would probably pitch if I was in a meeting that people would be like,
so they were brainstorm ideas that I don't know if it's going to work or not, but I don't know. What did you say? Salt and pepper shakers, but it's like Snoke's top half and bottom half.
That was the one that people said they would buy. And you know what? If I go into Celebration and that's sitting in the store, they better give me a free one. That's all I'm going to say. But at the same time, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'll probably keep doing it up until Celebration, so that thread's going to be a million things long.
Lacey, are you trying to tell me that if they don't give you a free Snoke salt and pepper shaker, that you're going to become salty?
I hate you so much. Jeez. Why am I on this podcast?
Well, we have to get into some poll results, guys. And what we did is we peppered this question off of you guys. And we said, do you think that Solo: A Star Wars Story's box office underperformance to this point, especially internationally, will have a major impact on decisions regarding future Star Wars movies? 41% of you said yes, and 59% of you said no. So a lot of confidence coming out of you guys out there who voted. Quite a few votes. I think it was around 1,000 votes by the end of it. But are you guys surprised that around 60%, 6 out of 10 fans said it wasn't going to change a thing?
I'm not, because I think that the average fan thinks that Lucasfilm has all the stuff planned out. And I'm one to believe that I think they're kind of writing,
They're Han Soloing it.
Yeah, they're kind of just trying to figure out, okay, well, let's get a vibe off of this thing and then maybe make some moves, get a vibe off of this thing, maybe make some moves. And I don't think they're doing what, classic Marvel's doing. It's we're going to plan all this stuff out and then we're just going to do it whether the reception was good or not, which lucky for them, it's always good. Right. But I'm not surprised that the average fan thinks, oh, no, even though it was, maybe mediocre. I think doesn't change the plans at all. They're going to keep doing what they're doing.
I guess I'm surprised only because I feel like a lot of people have either said no, I'm not seeing it, or it was all right. But at the same time, and I don't know how valid this argument is, but I got into a deep conversation with my friend about Star Wars overseas, and he made a good point that the original trilogy wasn't really popular overseas.
It wasn't released overseas.
Exactly. That's what it was. And so those characters aren't well known by that audience, so to have a movie based on the character that they don't care about is kind of a tough sell. Whereas they've had Gundam Wing over there forever and all these other things, so Transformers is more likely to do well because they like robots. You know what I mean? So then, even with Last Jedi, didn't do well except in Japan, and that's because Japan has a connection with Star Wars. So I think there's, especially internationally, it's just like one of those things that I'm like, okay, I'm not really surprised because they weren't really connected to the original trilogy like our audiences here in America.
I'm curious if that was maybe why they went with Han Solo's, because they're like, maybe we can just introduce him to Han Solo. Like, maybe let's give them this character that they don't know anything about. We'll give them the story of, like, this young orphan who becomes this thing, and, it's stuff like, I don't know.
Maybe it was their answer to killing him.
I don't know. I don't think they come up with movie ideas to try to lure in the international audience. They're trying to stabilize their current audience.
I don't know, man. I think like right now the international box office is something that all movie studios are focusing more and more on over versus domestic.
Right, but what I'm saying is they make their audience, they make their movies for their target audience while also trying to pull in additional audience. So they're not making these movies for the international audience. Like, let's make this movie so China likes it.
Yeah.
Like, they don't
I would argue that's incorrect as someone that's in marketing, because what you want is you want a new audience. You don't want the audience you already have because you already have that audience.
But they don't.
I know, but you know what I mean? Like, going into it, you're thinking, like, working on a show cycle. My show cycle is, I know I have this many fans that are always going to show up, so what do I want to do? I want to branch out, so I'm going to bring in different guests, I'm going to bring in different this, different that, because I need those other people to show up to grow my audience, because the other people are already here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't even necessarily know if that's true for Star Wars exactly, but I definitely know it's something that like other franchises are thinking about. Transformers is an example, or Pacific Rim. They are trying to market.
Pacific Rim did great overseas.
Yeah, they're trying to market to those international audiences. So anyway, this is all besides the point. We're getting way off of what the poll was. Do we think it changes what they're going to do in the future? And so 60% said no.
And our best comment came from Mike Killmonger at Ahsoka Bendu 413.
Great name.
And I mean, he's the 413th person to think of it, but that's fine. He said, I think it'll affect where Disney-Lucasfilm will schedule their future Star Wars films, but no, I don't think it'll affect them much creatively. So that's possibly true. I think the whole December thing is really on point, so he may have a good point there. It was the most liked comment, so thank you very much, Mike. Before we get into the Newsnet, we have a solo challenge winner, everybody.
Woo!
2,500 people entered this contest. That's more people than went to go see Solo, a Star Wars Story opening weekend.
You're so mean. It's been a week. Give it some time. Jesus.
And we're here with the winner announcement. We have a winner. This guy absolutely crushed the contest. He wiped the floor with all of us. The three of us probably combined he got his score, for all we know. And congratulations to Daniel Clark.
Woo!
Daniel, great job, man.
Now, Daniel already knows, so it's more of a just we're like really celebrating him right now.
What does he get, John? What does the winner get?
So, Daniel, thanks to us and our friends Black Series Rebels and Star Wars Explained, he's going to take home 3 Solo-themed Funko Pops, the Last Shot novel by Daniel Jose Older. He's going to get... And that's from Star Wars Explained. From us, he's going to get 2 Resistance Broadcast t-shirts, a Han Solo, young Han Solo Black Series action figure, and a signed picture of Chewbacca by Jonas Sotomo, with a little drawing of Chewie next to it.
Ooh.
Thanks to Lacey and Awesome Con via the Resistance Broadcast being us. And Black Series Rebels gave 3 of their very famous, that always sell out, action pins, as they call them, also Solo themed. So all that is going straight to Scotland for Daniel Clark. So congratulations again, Daniel, and thank you once again to our friends Black Series Rebels and Star Wars Explained for joining this venture with us. I'm sure we're gonna have more contests in the future. Definitely one for episode 9 in about a year and a half or so. But that is it for that. Now, James, the Newsnet. It's been a while since we fired up the Newsnet.
Pause. James, just for the people at home, who between us won the Solo Challenge?
Oh, see, she's going to go there now.
Oh, she's going to go there.
Yeah, we did not do that great. John actually did 11 points correct. I managed to do 13 points correct, which wasn't bad, but Lacey actually took the cake here with 15 points. She must have got one of these. She actually nailed the last 3 questions perfectly. She said, Val and Beckett would die. She said just Dryden Voss would die and not Kira. And then she also said that just L3 would die and not Enfys Nest. She nailed all of those deaths. And that eventually led her to the victory. So, all right, Lacey, you've had your 15 minutes of fame. You won the solo challenge between us.
What do I win?
You win our... I can't say respect.
I was gonna say, what? You're not gonna give me your respect.
Yeah, I do admire when people do well at this, though, which is why the contest winner did so amazing. I'm so much admiration for him, like to be able to voluntarily say, I don't know, I think this might happen, and then to just it nail every aspect of our questions was just so crazy.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of this contest, and I'm never going to do another one again.
Oh, he says that after he won the Last Jedi challenge and soaked up 3 Resistance broadcast T-shirts from his coworkers.
That's right.
Where's my
Those are big words.
Right. Just go buy a T-shirt with all of your bragging whateverness. Okay, now that has been decided, we can move on to something that we haven't fired up in a long time, Mr. Baney.
Yeah.
Which is the Newsnet. What's cracking this week?
Heading into the Memorial Day weekend, discussions were had about the upcoming box office of Solo, a Star Wars story. Will it break the Pirates of the Caribbean record of $130 million for Memorial Day weekend? Will it hit the tracking numbers of $170 million that were floating around for a while? The world gasped as the numbers rolled in and we started to hear it was like half that amount. The box office total for the normal Friday, Saturday, Sunday came to $84 million, with 103 just barely breaking 100 after the bonus holiday. So John, I got to ask you, in your opinion, did Solo underperform, or are we just putting too high of expectations on Star Wars films, specifically the standalones?
It's the worst opening weekend in the history of a Star Wars film if you include inflation and the number of ticket sales. So, and I don't include the Clone Wars. That doesn't count. And it bombed internationally, as we already talked about when we were talking about the polls. That's a big concern. I think it made $168 million combined the opening weekend. Obviously, this is Monday, and we don't have the numbers on how it did this past weekend, but I have a feeling Lacey may be able to get into some info she has on the expectations for the forecast the rest of the way. To me, you're looking at things like, Vader to me was the key in Rogue One for marketing. It put butts in seats that may not have gone to see it. People know Vader even internationally, so I think that helped Rogue One a lot there. Memorial Day weekend, contrary to what people think, isn't really a huge movie weekend. A lot of people are outdoors doing things with family, traveling. So the second weekend is very telling. But if it dropped more than 50% this past weekend, this movie's in a lot of trouble. So there's no other way to spin it. It really didn't do well. It did well for a Dana Carvey movie, but it didn't do well for a Star Wars movie. So it's scary. It really is. It's shocking. It's obviously humbling for them because they probably felt invincible. It's probably like when Mike Tyson, the first time he got knocked out, he's probably like, this is what that feels like. And it's really shocking. So right now, the movie-going audience is James Buster Douglas, and they just put Mike Tyson on his tail in the form of Star Wars.
Yeah, I think personally that the fans right now are coming up with kind of like excuses, because I got to push back a little bit on that. Memorial Day weekend isn't a big movie weekend. They targeted Memorial Day weekend. They said that this is going to be great because we got 4 days. We can put it all this extra time. People are going to be off. People are going to be with their families, and they're all going to want to go see Solo. Like, I think that was like the perfect weekend for them to do it. I mean, I know there were other movies around, but if you're just talking about simply putting it on a holiday weekend, specifically like a 4-day thing like that, like all the big movies aim for those weekends where there's
but didn't it, not to interrupt you, but didn't Solo do really well in comparison to previous Memorial Day weekend openings?
No, it did not.
I thought that it did.
No, it did not. It's like currently 8th for Memorial Day weekend. Like I think like in general, like if you just look at like movie industries, like they even have that kind of like box office category of like, there's this, 3-day weekend, this 3-day weekend, this 3-day weekend throughout the year. And movies specifically target those days because they know that they can, that they're going to have that, they're going to be able to kind of include that extra day in their like opening box office numbers, even though it's kind of a weird way to say it, but it's a big day because people aren't working that day. They're free, they're open, they're down to do things they don't normally do. Hey, let's go see a movie. We don't ever go see movies. Let's go see a movie.
It's why people hit Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah,
too.
exactly. Like you'd think that would be like, but here's the thing is like if we were releasing Star Wars on Thanksgiving weekend and we'd be like, well, the reason it didn't do well is because people are with their families. No, that's like people go see movies on those holiday weekends.
I mean, we ran the poll and like over 3,000 people voted, and almost a third of them said that they already had other weekend plans with their families, and they were going to go plan to see it later.
Yeah, I think that there's also needs to be taken into consideration that you got Deadpool and Avengers, which are both very well received. Fans loved them. So people that have waited to see those movies or want to see them again, if it comes down to it, they're going to see something that they know is good compared to what they've heard isn't that great. And if you were to take the money from Solo and then add the money from Deadpool and add the money from Avengers, it would have made the money they said it was going to make.
Hey, look, I'm not saying why it bombed. There's many reasons we can get into, and I'm sure we'll talk about this on Thursday too. That's just my guess.
Right.
But he said did it, and it did.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention, that I think that there's a lot of fans coming out and trying to justify why it did well. And I think the fact of the matter is, look, there's this reason and this reason and this reason, and all that together is kind of the reason it didn't. There's no one single thing to point to. But the truth is that we all had higher predictions for Solo. So Lacey, I'm going to ask you, now that we see these numbers, do you think this is going to affect episode 9? I mean, will episode 9 do better than Last Jedi? Is this low box office epidemic or is it isolated?
Well, first, I think everyone needs to take a step back and remember that this is a business. Like, yeah, they make things that we care about and it's fun and it's entertainment, but at the end of the day, it's about money. So when anything like this happens where they've put a lot of money into something and they're not getting it back, they're going to take a step back and go, whoa, what happened? How did it get to this point? So I think it is going to affect episode 9. I think they're going to reevaluate any risks that might be being taken. Any chances or budgets will probably be cut about certain things. They're probably not going to go crazy like they did with Solo and Solo, obviously the budget was reshoots, but Last Jedi, they did these elaborate sets and all these things. I'm sure they're going to be like, look, can we cut some of this stuff or can we make this a little bit cheaper? Or I don't think
back to the green screens.
Yeah, I don't think they'll take as many risks as they did in Last Jedi. Yeah, no, it definitely affects episode 9. And I don't think episode 9 is going to ever beat Force Awakens. I think Force Awakens had not only a good movie behind it, but it had the energy of Star Wars being back and the idea that it was relaunching something, and I don't think anything's ever going to beat that. It's kind of when you look at any other franchise, I feel like a lot of franchises, like the first 2 movies do really well, and then anything else that comes after it doesn't do so well. Like, you know what I mean?
Return of the Jedi beat Empire, though.
Because it was the end one.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know why, but it's like Empire, I think its initial run was like $280 million.
Do you think people got into it, though, after the second one?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Because
Maybe
I
because of
feel
the
like-
Ewoks, it brought more little kids in.
Maybe.
That's a good
I
question.
think it might also be because Empire Strikes Back got such a strong critical review and everybody loved it. I mean, it's one of the best movies of all time. So for people to go see that, they're probably like, oh, I like Star Wars. And then when the next one came out, they're like, you know what? I'm going to finish this out. Whereas I feel like we're in a position now that people didn't like Last Jedi. So I can't see people sticking around. I can tell you right now, my friends don't want to see it again. The ones that aren't diehard fans like me are like, I'll sit this out. I have no interest in seeing the next one.
Yeah, if I can make one more point about that before James chimes in. I don't think Empire initially didn't receive... It got mixed reviews from people. People were like, this isn't like that first movie. This is a little strange. I think some of the reviews weren't even that great initially, but it grew as a legacy over time. And I think that Last Jedi may have a shot of that happening. But with these movies, like you said about The Force Awakens, all three trilogies, nothing touched the first one. I think the first one always does something.
Right.
I don't know what that is, but A New Hope was the best. It still is if you go by inflation. It beats The Force Awakens.
Right.
Episode 1 was the best out of the prequels, and now, like you're saying, The Force Awakens probably will too.
What I was going to say is I think there's something about like that era when people are thinking, oh, they're going to make, it wasn't like a sequel to or the second of 3 movies. They were like, they're going to make another Star Wars. Like at the time, sequels were just kind of, they're just going to make another one, and they're probably going to make another one if that one does well, and another one if that one does well. But I think like after they saw Empire and the way that it played out, they're like, wow, that didn't feel like Star Wars at all. And then they're like, yeah, you're going to get the end of this story, and then we're never making them again, with this last one. I think that really enticed people. The actual more interesting comparison in my mind is, why did Revenge of the Sith do better than Attack of the Clones? Now I get,
because people wanted to see him turn into Vader.
Bingo.
Yeah, and I think you're right. But what was interesting to me is that people loved the original trilogy. They went into Phantom Menace and they were like, I can't wait to see what. And they were just like so blown away. It was not Star Wars. They hated it. And they went to go see Attack of the Clones. And I don't think Attack of the Clones did Phantom Menace many favors at all. Like, I think people still kind of look at that one as quite possibly the worst of the 3. So it almost like it was even worse. Yet they all still went back for Revenge of the Sith. It made more money than Attack of the Clones.
But it had Vader, though. It had him turning into Vader.
Yeah. I'm just saying that we saw the first one did well with the original trilogy. The second one did all right. It did good. And then the third one ended up doing a little bit better than the second one. That same thing happened with the prequel trilogy. Do you think that the same thing's going to happen with this one? Do you think that more people are actually going to go see 9 based on, what happened in Last Jedi and the fan reaction?
I think the only similarity is with the first one. There's a freshness about it, and even though it's still a Star Wars movie, we're back. Here we are. We took a 16-year hiatus. We're back. We took a 12-year hiatus or 10-year hiatus. We're back. I think that's where the patterns end. I don't think you can compare Empire to Attack of the Clones for many reasons, but in terms of like the box office flow, it was like you were saying, James, it was Star Wars Part 2. It wasn't, here's a pre-planned trilogy, the third one's coming in a few years, here's the second one. That's different. I don't think you can really
but my
compare
comparison
like
still stands. The first one did buku bucks, and then the second one did a lot of money, but not as good as the first one.
Yeah, different circumstances, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a connection.
Yeah, okay.
And I agree with Lacey. Everyone wanted to show up just to see him become Vader. They're like, we've heard about this story.
That's the only reason I was there. Hayden wasn't the reason.
Hey, it's the only reason I put Vader in my episode 9 pitch.
Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, Vader, Super Shredder Vader.
Super Shredder Vader. Yeah, he's back, man, and he's ready to destroy Kylo Ren because he doesn't care at all about that kid. You guys want to move on to the next story?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, when writing Solo, Ron Howard pointed out that their big reveal at the end was sort of a last-minute addition. However, the Kasdans, the writers of Solo, had, a few different things, a few different people in mind when it came to the ultimate boss behind Crimson Dawn. And as it turns out, Jon Kasdan was the biggest champion for Maul, saying, I did my homework to know that because of Rebels, because of Clone Wars, we were in a position where this part of Darth Maul's life was gray enough that we could fill it in with this thing. And it worked nicely with Rebels and Clone Wars in that he did survive that incident with Qui-Gon, and he did go into the world of crime and self-interest and was separated from the Empire and Sith and that whole thing to go pursue his own life. So I thought this worked nicely, and it certainly left the door open to use great stuff from the Maul legacy in the future. Now, in this story covered by Star Wars Newsnet, there are also few other neat little tidbits, like how the original written opening for Force Awakens was inevitably cut because it leaked online. Oops. So the team for Solo knew that this time they wanted to make sure that this move with Maul had to stay close to the heart for them. Lacey, I'm going to ask you, because of all this, on Twitter, John Kasdan was also saying he believes this opens the door for more underworld movies for Star Wars. He thinks this opens the door for more characters like Maul to shine on the big screen. Do you agree?
It's tough because, I liked Maul in Phantom Menace. I honestly think he's the best part of Phantom Menace.
You're not alone.
Agreed.
I don't think he deserves his own movie. Is the question, that he gets his own movie, or that he's, brought in, characters like this are brought back into the stories through these movies?
I would say more so that. So his first thing is that he says that a movie like Solo opens the door for these underworld kind of darker, grittier movies.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I loved that moment in Solo where he came around and you see his metal foot and he lights the lightsaber and you see it in Kira's eyes.
You see his little metal foot.
I know. Yeah. I wanted to go back on that.
It just sounded like you were talking about like a baby. You see his little metal foot.
It also makes it seem like the only thing he lost in that fight was his foot.
Whatever. Darth Maul's a soft boy. It's all good. It is canon.
Lacey loves those tortured souls in Star Wars, I'm telling you.
No, I'm good. I agree that bringing back the characters like this makes sense, but at the same time, unless you're a diehard fan like us, or like James, who loves all the books and the shows and all this other stuff, I had a lot of people say, how is this guy here? So it's great, but at the same time, if you're looking at it back to that business perspective and broader audience, no one's gonna get it. So my fear is that by throwing these people in there, it's cool for some of us, but not for the rest. And does that impact people's opinions and the way they do movies in the future? So
my take on this is it's going to lean into John's question, actually, because it's going to be a similar thing. But I honestly, it had to be Maul. I think I absolutely loved that it was Maul. And I think it's a smart decision because...
Did you like his little foot?
I liked his little foot. That was one of my favorite parts. No, but I think that this signifies that Lucasfilm would be open to the idea of making that other canon stuff more prominent. Because if it makes sense for a story, where would this character be at this time? Oh, he would be leading, this dark underworld syndicate of gangsters and stuff. Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. And I think it was a perfect opportunity for Maul to come back because people, the average movie watcher, would say that he was the best part of Phantom Menace. I mean, you said that even. That he's the best part of Phantom Menace, and he was such an underplayed villain, and it was so misused, and it's unfortunate that they just killed him off in that first movie. I wish we could have seen more Maul, but then nobody tunes in for the Clone Wars, really, the average fan. And Maul has this great, massive legacy, and he's one of the most beloved characters in Star Wars, but it's all underground stuff. People don't really know about it, and if they're gonna bring Maul back into it, and they're gonna try to find a way to put him in a movie, this was I think one of the best ways they could do it. They're testing the water, but it totally makes sense. And John, then that leads me right into your question. It's a similar question, do fans want Maul back, or is he better served somewhere else in canon? Was it a good move to make this reveal him versus, say, a new character, or maybe someone, like Jabba that the fans may have expected to see as the big bad of Crimson Dawn?
Well, it takes guts to have done this. I'm sure they really thought about this, because the average fan who likes Star Wars, they had no clue Darth Maul was alive.
Yeah,
my boss had me explain it to him, by the way.
Right, and I had a lot of friends and family who went to go see it, and they were like, "So this takes place when Anakin was a little kid?" I'm like, "No. He didn't die. He had robot legs." And they're like, "What?" They're like, "Oh, all right, okay." So Lucasfilm knows this. The Kasdans know this. Lucasfilm okayed it. So I give them a lot of credit because it really takes a lot of guts to do that, because you are confusing the average movie-going Star Wars fan, and they know that they were going to do that. But this also brings me to the point of what Jon Kasdan brought to this writing team, because Lawrence Kasdan is my favorite.
Ya boy, Lawrence Kasdan.
I go on and on about how much I love this guy. He's an absolute legend. He knows nothing outside of Star Wars movie canon. He admits it. He's fully open and honest about it. He's like, yeah, those stories, they're just kind of written by, I stick to the movies. That's fine. Yeah. So they bring in his son, and his son's like, "No, Dad, check it. There was this series. Darth Maul's back. Blah blah blah." He's like, "Okay, let's do that." So you can see how John's influence there, and I guess that's why he's the forefront of talking about it. But overall, I guess my answer here is really it took a lot of guts, and I give them a lot of credit for that, because they could have just gone right down memory lane or the straight and narrow and said, "Here's Jabba the Hutt. There he is. That's exactly who you thought and exactly who you wanted. And she's working with him, and it fits nicely and perfectly." And they didn't do it. And maybe I would have liked Jabba better there, because I'm not a huge Clone Wars cartoon fan. But I give them a hell of a lot of credit for taking that risk.
I honestly couldn't agree with you more. Like, I think that him being in the movie was a massive risk, and something that they had to sit around and say, I mean, you nailed it. The audience is going to come out of this and just be like, I'm confused. And I think the move here is that they were interested in getting people talking about their other entities outside of the films. They wanted people talking about their other shows and the bigger canon and the bigger lore. And I don't know. I think that's a risky move, but man, I feel so good as a Star Wars fan. That's part of the reason I loved Solo that much, is the last scene in that movie, like everybody loved, they walked out of Rogue One with Vader. They're like, I loved that. I had a good feeling walking out of that last scene. Mm-hmm. I had a great feeling walking out of Solo, because I'm like, it's Maul. It could have been Jabba, but it was Maul. And that's so awesome. Like, that fires me up.
Yeah, I agree.
We got one more story to talk about.
Ooh.
And actually, I'm going to bring up a similar question to the Darth Maul here at the end. His backpack has jets. He's Boba the Fett. And he might be getting his own movie. In a preemptive strike before the release of Solo, the story got, air quotes, leaked, revealed by Hollywood Reporter, that the Boba Fett movie is in the works. So now, since we actually haven't heard anything from official, from Disney or Lucasfilm themselves, this is being placed in the Obi-Wan movie category as something that feels very real, but is technically not on the books. That being said, the report showcases James Mangold as the director, which is seemingly good news for anybody who enjoyed the Logan film, because he may bring that dark and gritty, the elements from that movie and bring it over into a Star Wars film. So, John, I'm going to ask you, as one of the biggest Boba Fett fans in the world, it's your favorite character. You probably know more than anyone. You've been clamoring for this movie. I repeat, clamoring for a Boba Fett film. Why is Boba Fett your number one pick for the next standalone?
In the words of somebody, I wish you weren't a liar.
I was going to say, when did you become a Boba fan? And where was I? And when did this am I high?
I despise Boba Fett. I never liked him. I think people latched on to him to just try to be different, and now it turned into something way bigger than they ever possibly could have imagined.
They're like, this got out of hand really fast. Everybody thinks Boba Fett's so cool, and I just latched onto him to be different.
Yeah. So he's on screen for a total of like 6 minutes in the whole original trilogy, and it took like 12 actors to play him. It's just like enough already with this guy. I don't think this movie's happening, man. I really don't. I didn't want it before. I can't imagine it ever being a good idea. He's a side character. That's like making a movie about Bosk, in my opinion. I see no difference between the two characters. I know he appeared in the prequels as a kid, and they developed his story because he was a clone of his father, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. And I understand people love Boba Fett, but he can't carry his own movie. So even though I see the Hollywood Reporter talking about this as we have the director and this, and making it really sound concrete, I do not believe this. I just don't believe it. I don't think a Boba Fett movie is happening. I think this is a completely false report, and that's just where I'm at. And I'll probably be wrong, and that's fine. But it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It really doesn't. He's a side character. No matter how much you want to push the guy, it's just not going to happen.
Who cares? Can I just say that? Who cares what Boba did? Who cares what happened to Boba? Who cares? Who cares? I don't.
Like that. I don't.
I'm being serious.
My thing, was 6 who cares.
Yeah, my thing with
for the people in the back.
Yeah, my thing with the Boba Fett movie is I think you say who cares, but I think the answer is I think a lot of people care, and I think that just enough people care to say like, yeah, I mean, like I always thought Boba Fett was cool, and I'd like to see more of him. Again, going back to that Maul thing, like, he was kind of underutilized. He was like one of the coolest characters. People always.
But all he did was have a jetpack, and then he got hit with a stick into a pit.
Sometimes the mystery is the thing that makes the person so much cooler. So, I understand that they would think that a Boba Fett movie could be big bucks, but.
No way.
I'm saying I think that an executive, like someone would think that, I mean, in the same way they're like, you know what? We could make a movie about some character in the Star Wars universe no one's ever heard of, or we could make a movie about Han Solo. You know what I mean? I get that mentality makes sense to the executive.
Yeah, but do you want a Boba Fett movie? It's Deadpool. It's a guy that gets people to kill, and he goes and gets them and kills them. It's literally Deadpool.
Yeah. I would rather see a Boba Fett movie than an Obi-Wan movie.
I'd rather see Deadpool with a Boba Fett helmet on than Boba Fett movie.
Yeah.
Watch them do that now.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you, Lacey, though. We just finished, talking about the box office of Solo, and I don't want to get too into this because I know we're going to deep dive into this stuff on Thursday when John Roca, the Outlaw, comes on the show. But did the news come too early? I mean, do you think Lucasfilm wants to do more standalones revolving around these familiar characters like we were just kind of talking about?
I think they have a lot of stuff that they're pitching and developing, but I can't even... I promise you, there's so much stuff that's sitting on a board somewhere or in a notebook somewhere that never is ever going to happen. And yeah, they could get a director and talk to a director and make it a possibility. And maybe that director leaked it, or their girlfriend leaked it, or their brother, or their neighbor, or their grandma after they said, don't tell grandma. I just think that it's not too early because I don't think Lucasfilm would want this out. But I think it's too early in the sense of, look how Solo did. Let's take a step back. Let's regroup. Let's think about this. And also, Boba's not that great. So let's reevaluate which characters we're putting in the spotlight, because we've said this on this show before. Look, I love Lando. I loved Donald Glover. He's a secondary character. Chewbacca is a secondary character. Boba Fett is a secondary character. I don't care what they do. I don't care what, because all you're going to end up getting is diplomatic meetings with Padme.
Yeah, we stay inside the Star Wars fan bubble sometimes, so much so that to a fault, I think, where we forget the real general audience that they're relying on for these box office dollars. Like if you said, there's a Star Wars movie coming out in December, Oh, really? What is it? Boba Fett. Who? Like, honestly, most people would be like, I have no idea who that is. If Boba Fett was on, like, the show Seinfeld, you know how they sit at the diner and it's the four of them talking? He'd be like the cash register lady who doesn't have any lines, who's in the background just pushing buttons so it looks like there's people in this shot. That's who Boba Fett is.
I absolutely agree with you, John, except for the fact that there's not a huge fan base who loved that cash register character. I mean, it's like, you can't deny the fact that people for years always thought Boba Fett was just the coolest. I know he doesn't do a whole lot, but they thought he was a cool character.
Yeah, but how many people, though? I think you're thinking in the bubble. You're in the fan bubble, I think, a little bit.
I don't know, man. I think the people outside of the fan bubble are the people who like Boba Fett.
I want to do a poll like somewhere that has nothing to do with die-hard Star Wars.
Yeah, I know. It's like impossible because all of our polls are kind of... I mean, he did not win the coolest character tournament, so we got to throw that out there. That's information.
I just know I'm going to get so much hate after this episode, but sorry, Boba does nothing in Star Wars, and he falls into a pit.
I have one more Boba Fett question though. If they were to make the Boba Fett movie post Return of the Jedi, would that be a Maul situation where people would be like, "This guy's dead"? I don't think they would do that, but is that the same kind of move where it's like, we kind of have this feeling that this character's dead? Do you think they're going to try to keep Boba Fett, I assume they're going to try to say he didn't die then, but do you think they're going to try to keep him alive in books and comics, or do you think they're going to try to put him in like Favreau's thing, Favreau's show, Boba Fett, there he is, and people are going to be like, I thought this character was dead.
James, I'm going to go on record here. I think Boba Fett is going to be in Jon Favreau's show.
Is he just going to nod at the camera and walk off, and that will be his only part?
He'll touch a lady on the chin, and then nod his head, and then like hold his gun up, and then try to use his jetpack, and it won't work again.
And then he'll shoot something but miss. Just like, generic Boba stuff.
Classic Boba.
Yeah. All jokes aside, though, but I can't compare it to Darth Maul because we saw Darth Maul die. He got cut in half and went down a famous Star Wars reactor cavern down to the bottom.
You didn't see Boba Fett go down the cavern?
Hits all the sides like a pinball machine.
In one piece into an organic organism, and he slid down like a sandcastle. It wasn't like he fell down 5,000 feet in two pieces.
Yeah, only to be slowly digested over the next 1,000 years.
Yeah, so he has 1,000 years to get out. That seems easy enough.
Yeah, can he make the deadline? Can he get to the movie shoot for the photo shoot for Jon Favreau's?
We'll find out on the Disney streaming service next year.
It's hard to think, for me at least, to think someone's badass when they go out by getting hit from behind. Whereas like Darth Maul, he got cut in half. You're like, oh, well, at least he went out. Boba was like, Boba Fett, turn around, hit. Oh no, I'm falling.
Yeah, like Maul basically owned two really awesome Jedis, and only once did he fail. That one moment where he didn't anticipate Obi-Wan's move properly, and it basically it did end the fight, but it basically killed him. You know what I mean? It's just like,
but that was still a sick death. He bounced off the sides. You were like, oh my god, he's in two pieces.
Who had a more embarrassing death? Boba Fett or Palpatine, who's like, I'm not shutting my lightning off. I'm not shutting my lightning off. As Vader's carrying him and just throws him. He's like, I refuse to shut my lightning off. And then he just gets thrown down and he just screams like,
he's like, I hope Luke's going to be in front of me for the next 5 minutes because I've locked my elbows.
Also, how strong is Vader that he's lifting the Emperor over his head? We'll get into that another day.
Yeah, we have actually turned Newsnet into the whole podcast practically. We've got some other stories that happened this week that we don't want to leave out because they are just as important. We want to talk about these quickly, but let's head over to the Scoundrels rundown so that we can do that.
Right on. Thanks, James. It looks like Solo, a Star Wars story, may need some coaxium at the box office.
Hey-o.
So let's do it. 3, 2, now! Billy D. Williams made an appearance at MegaCon in Orlando, and it was revealed that he has been working out with a trainer 3 times a week on a new diet. Of course, that immediately confirmed to every Star Wars theorist that this must mean Lando is back for Episode 9. Honestly, it could just mean an 81-year-old man's doctor wants him to be healthier. Could Lando be back in Episode 9? Sure. But what would an 81-year-old Lando be like? I'm not sure I need to see that, but maybe we should talk about it on Thursday. The novelization for Solo comes out this fall, and if you can't wait for that, you can get a fix of non-movie Solo Star Wars story canon content in the form of a Beckett comic coming this summer. What's better than an animated version of Woody Harrelson? We all know we'll be reading this thing with his voice in our head, and it may sound like James Baney's voice too. Speaking of non-movie Star Wars content, let's check in with Lacey about a book coming out about women in Star Wars. What do you got, Lacey?
Guys, I am so excited about this. I can't even tell you. So StarWars.com announced a new book is coming to the Star Wars galaxy this October, probably around New York Comic Con, cough cough. And I'm excited to say it is focused on the female characters of Star Wars. The book, entitled Women of the Galaxy, will be released by Chronicle Books and is written by Star Wars fan and talented writer and awesome geek Amy Ratcliffe. It will feature 75 different characters, including fan favorites like Leia, Rey, and Padme, to many lesser-known characters. The really cool part is that it will feature original art from crazy talented female and non-binary artists, including the gorgeous cover art by Jen Bartel. I'm super pumped about this book, and the important question is, who will I give my credit card info to? Anyone? No, seriously, I need this book. Okay, back to you, John.
All right. You can give your credit card info to me I'll just use it for other stuff. Like that infamous Force Effects lightsaber. Our last story in the rundown is also about a woman in Star Wars, Kira. Kira has made her debut on Forces of Destiny recently, though it was not voiced by the mother of dragons herself, Emilia Clarke. The short featured Kira, IG-88, and Hondo, and is available to watch on the Disney YouTube channel. And I believe there's plenty more Forces of Destiny coming, and I know Lacey's waiting for Kylo Ren to make his appearance.
He better be shirtless.
Although I don't know that Adam Driver will do it, though.
This is for children.
I don't know it's going to be Adam Driver, though, so that may be a deal breaker for you.
He might do it. He did all the video games, like the Lego games and stuff.
We'll find out. For a more in-depth look at all these stories, be sure to head to StarWarsNewsNet.com every day. That is it for this week's rundown. Let's see what questions Lacey has pulled from the vault this week in Ask the Resistance.
Yeah, so it's that time again, guys, for Ask the Resistance. You submitted your questions via Twitter, and hopefully we have some pretty good answers. Our first question comes from Funtime @_Funtime. John, I'm waiting for you to say, way to get your handle, Funtime.
Way to get your handle, Funtime. Good job.
And he or she said, I feel like they can't bring back a character like Maul in a movie without a plan to do more. Do you think they're going to continue a story with Kira, Maul, and the Crimson Dawn in a book/comic/movie/cartoon? James, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, I'll take this. Abso-freaking-lutely. Like, I don't think there's any chance that they would bring Maul back. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. There's no way they're going to bring Maul back and not tell me in a book or a comic. I don't know about a movie. That's another discussion. There's politics involved with that. There's money involved with that. But man, in a TV show or a book or a comic or something like that, absolutely, we have to see where Kira goes. We have to see how he got to that low point when we first meet him in Rebels, you know, where he's on his own and he feels like he's been betrayed and he's been on this planet for a long time. Like, how is he like the leader of Crimson Dawn and he's working with Kira, and yeah, it's going to be done. It has to be done. I want to see it. I will buy the first issue.
You know what's kind of funny? I didn't really think about this, and check me if I'm wrong here, but Crimson means red and Dawn means like the rise of, and Darth Maul's red. Does that have any kind of symbolism there to you?
Maybe it could. I noticed too that there's crimson, which is a color, and then dawn is like a solar reference too. So like the Black Sun as well was also like a known crime syndicate. So ties with the Black Sun would be like, well, a new version of that might be like the Crimson Dawn. So it's like,
which is red.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the black and now the red. So I don't know. I think there's all kind of like when they come up
Lacey's
with those
laughing
names.
at us right
yeah,
now
I know. She's like, oh my gosh.
I'm laughing because John just keeps being like, he's red. And James is giving legit answers. And he's like, but he's red. We know he's red. We know he has a red face.
But think about this.
It.
The word crimson is more of a red color.
So, John, what color is Darth Maul?
I don't know, but Kira's going to get the same tattoos in the sequel.
Heck yeah.
You think so? Will she have horns?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that would be a dark turn for her. Next time we see her, we see Emilia Clarke with like tattoos and stuff.
It's funny you say all this, James, because it kind of plays into our next question, which I'm also going to let you answer because it's similar to what you were just saying. So it's from Seth Keim, at SKEIM09. He's the 9th one of Seth Keim. And he asks, do you think they set Solo up for a Solo sequel, ... or do you think they will find a way to continue the story in a roundabout way in another anthology film? So, James, you were kind of talking about this, so I'm going to let you take this one.
I think that ideally, when they signed for multiple movies and things, I think Lucasfilm absolutely had the possibility of doing 3 Solo movies in mind. I think that now that Solo is out, and it's kind of being like, tossed around, well-received, maybe, maybe not, I think that their plan to use up those contracts are going to be more likely utilized in a secondary roundabout anthology film. So maybe we see him in that Boba Fett that we've heard about. Maybe we see him in a Lando movie that was kind of like talked about a little bit. I don't think that one's like close to being real, but it would make sense if they were making a Lando movie that Han might show up in that one as well. So I think that's more likely. Would I like to see a Solo sequel more? Yes. But I also do kind of like that idea of them doing the Boba Fett Underworld movie, and we see something, that happened in Solo from Boba Fett's perspective, and Alden's in that scene or something. That could be kind of cool. But I think the latter of your suggestions is the more likely.
So speaking of Alden, our next question comes from John Reese at JReese1870. He's clearly a time traveler.
Unless he was born on January 8th, 1970.
No.
No, he's a time traveler.
He set up his Twitter account in 1870. That makes sense.
He's a time traveler.
I'm the idiot because I talk about Darth Maul being red.
So John asks us, do you think...
Great name, John. Great name, by the way.
He's the better John.
Oh my God.
Do you think we could get more Alden as Han, or Han, in movies that take place after Return of the Jedi? Would you want that? Secondary John, what do you think?
Secondary John. No. I think recasting these movies for prequels that predate the existing actors works. We've seen that work in the prequels. It's fine. But you can't take Alden Ehrenreich and go post Return of the Jedi and be like, there's Han. So we want you to watch Solo: A Star Wars Story, and then go watch the original trilogy for Harrison Ford for 3 movies. Then go see Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo after Return of the Jedi, but then go back to see Harrison Ford as Han Solo in The Force Awakens. 1, it's ridiculous. 2, it's never going to happen. And 3, Harrison Ford was like 42 when he did Return of the Jedi, and you're going to go after that with Alden Ehrenreich? Okay, yeah, maybe in 15 years we'll check in and see how he's looking when he's at the appropriate age. So, not to get all hyped up about it, but and I guess I answered your final question. Do I want to see that? I think by my answer you can tell that I don't want to see that happen. Mm-hmm. But I just don't, all joking aside and being all hyped up here, I just don't see that going down. So when we do see Alden as Han again, which I think we will, he'll either show up around that same time frame that he is now, hopefully in a sequel, though I doubt that, but maybe in the TV show or another movie somewhere.
Yeah, I think Alden is too young looking and or too young of an actor to play an older Han. Speaking of young actresses, Our next question is from Haley Meyer at Shapely_buns. Love that handle, Shapely Buns. And she asks, since Enfys Nest removed her mask, does that mean we have seen the last of her? So I said this last week, and I still think this. Enfys Nest is Enfys best. She's the best character to come out of that movie, I think. And I don't think we've seen the last of her. I think she'll come up either in another movie, in a TV show, maybe in a comic or a book, but we have not seen the last of her. I think the reason they kept that actress so secret is because they're going to be using her in other stuff. What do you guys think?
Oh, I said this on Twitter, but the Marauders Arrive music is some of the best music we've seen coming out of the new Disney. I mean, I absolutely love that song. I love that. I think the character's awesome. I think what the character stands for is awesome. I was sold when I saw that character on the train, and I was like, that looks like Final Fantasy to me or something. I think that the character of Enfys Nest and being someone who actually is more of like a good guy character and the roots of the rebellion and stuff like that, I absolutely could see a 5 comic series, with this character featured, or even like a book that somehow involves this character of some sort, kind of like how we got a Phasma novel. You want to learn more about Phasma? We'll give you a novel. You want to learn more about Enfys Nest? We'll give you a novel. Like, I think I could see that, and I hope that character continues to be treated well or correctly.
Yeah, I think I like that idea, but I also like the idea of more of the bulk of the Star Wars fan audience seeing more of Enfys Nest. So I'd like to see more live action. Again, with that actress too, because I thought she did a good job. Lacey, your question, did they hide her from us for that reason? I don't think so. I think it was more just to get us speculating.
Yeah. I do like what James said, though, that she looks like a bad guy, but then she ends up being the good guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I still think the name Enfys Nest is a little stupid, but I did like the character. I thought the actress did a good job, so she deserves another shot to play the character, whether that be in a series or another film somewhere. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think her removing her mask means she's done by any means. I think now that she's ditched the mask, she can actually show off her acting chops, kind of like we saw with Adam Driver when he finally got rid of that when he took that ridiculous thing off. And
hey, you brought him up.
I mean, I'm wearing a Kylo Ren t-shirt right now. Stop trying to get my audience to think that I don't like Kylo Ren. I love Kylo Ren.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you always mock me for bringing him up, and you brought him up. I didn't bring him up. But while we're talking about him, I'm just kidding. So guys, thank you so much for your questions. Many of you asked us about future movies, and we will leave that here for now, as we'll discuss this on Thursday with our guest John Roca from Collider Video. John, back to you.
Thanks, Lacey. So yeah, thank you. And answering the questions that you guys send us is one of my favorite parts of the show. Personally, so thank you guys so much. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. We have some exciting stuff coming up, so you'll always want to be alerted when our new episodes post. Trust me. As always, visit our website, StarWarsNewsNet.com, every day for all of your latest Star Wars news, information, editorials, reviews, and more. James, where can people find the Myra Trunks?
Well, if you're looking for the Myra Trunks, then just put Myra Trunks into the search bar of Twitter or Instagram, and you're going to find me. Not Myra Trunks. You're going to find me. Well, I'm Myra Trunks. I don't know. This got weird. It's a Dragon Ball reference, and it stands for Future Trunks in Japanese. So if you like the Dragon Ball references, come my way. If you just want to talk Star Wars, you should probably come my way too.
Right on. Lacey, how about you?
People can find me on Twitter at Lacey Gilleran. Just loving Star Wars.
Is that it?
Yeah, just loving Star Wars.
Okay.
Just loving Star Wars. Okay.
Just loving it. Having a good time. Just loving Star Wars.
Ba 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 ba.
You guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and writing over at StarWarsNewsNet.com, and probably wondering what people may be lacking in their lives if they need sex scenes in Star Wars so badly. I hope you find what's missing in your life. Join us again this Thursday as we will be joined by John Roca from Collider Video to talk about the impact of Solo's box office performance and how it may affect the future of Star Wars movie decisions over at Lucasfilm. So be sure you're subscribed and locked in, and we'll see you Thursday morning right here on the Resistance Broadcast.